Hey, welcome, heirs. We are so glad you are joining us for our third EMLI session. It's the 2024 Economic Mobility Leadership Institute Mayoral Cohort 2.0. We affectionately refer to AMA's groundbreaking financial literacy program as EMLI. My name is Stacy Fuji, and I'm with the African American Mayors. Well, today we want to talk to you about being the second official EMLI cohort. We welcome you to get acquainted with one another as you journey together for these next 12 months to increase your development of generational wealth for your constituencies through customized financial literacy programming and tools. Welcome, everyone. For the next 6 months, we will meet for an hour twice a month to discuss issues pertaining to wealth building, home ownership, insurance, land usage, student loans, and wills and trust. Today, we are diving into the topic of home ownership with presentations from our partners at the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB, and from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. We have a couple of housekeeping issues to touch on. First, by now, you should have received your LinkedIn invitation. If you haven't received one yet, please let us know. This will be the vehicle that we share information from our sessions and additional information from our presenters. So please let us know if you have not gotten an invitation. Darian Vason or myself will help you out. Second, as cohort members, your strategic plans will be supported with a $30,000 grant used for supporting your efforts. We will follow up with you regarding the best way to make sure your city receives its funds. Finally, we strongly encourage you to begin to think about programming or events that you would like to host in your cities in the next 6 months. When we talk about these topics, think about if you currently have a program on home ownership or if you'd like to develop one around home ownership. You may create an event, and if you have a program that's already set up, let's increase your home ownership. Either way, we would like to take the information and tools that you learned during our EMLI sessions to enhance your programming for your constituencies. During the next session, we will have office hours afterwards to help you flesh out your ideas. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you our CEO, Phyllis Dickerson, for the welcome.
Well, welcome, Mayor, to EMLI's first 2024 session. It's great to see everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome and announce the EMLI 2.0 cohort. So joining us are from the great cities of Riceville, Arkansas, North Lauderdale, Florida, East Point, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Campy, Louisiana, Baltimore, Maryland, Greenville, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, Durham, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Memphis, Tennessee, and Newport News, Virginia. You may have noticed we have 2 additional cities that have joined our cohort. Baltimore, Maryland, Mayor Brandon Scott, and Philly, Mayor Sherelle Parker. We are thrilled to have them join us, and you complete our dynamic dozen. As you know, AMA's Economic Mobility Leadership Institute is focusing on critical learning opportunities for mayors and their teams with the goal of creating strategic economic mobility plans to implement in your respective municipalities. Today, we begin our third session of our listening and learning phase. For the next 6 months, industry experts will share their knowledge and tools that will help you to develop your customized strategic plans. The second half of the project will consist of you implementing your plans by hosting events in your respective cities. We hope you see the value of this cohort and ask that you submit feedback in your monthly survey coming in the following days. Thank you for your participation and kind consideration. Back to you, Stacy.
Thank you, Phyllis. I know we've given you lots of information, and we will follow up with each of you to make sure your questions are answered, not only for today, but throughout the year. We are here to support you, and without further ado, let's begin. Ms. C. Renee Wilson is a seasoned professional with the real estate industry and brings a wealth of experience and expertise to her role as the executive director of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, Incorporated. With the distinguished career spanning multiple sectors, including legal, corporate, and nonprofit, Renee is a strategic leader known for her ability to transform vision into reality. She is committed to upholding a reputation rooted in quality, integrity, and service while nurturing fruitful relationships within both the corporate and nonprofit landscapes. Please welcome Executive Director Wilson to EMLI.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I have to start off by saying you guys have no idea how critical this EMLI program is to housing. NAREB's been around since 1947, and we have been in the trenches focused on equal opportunity. We're a civil organization, civil rights organization, and our creed is democracy and housing. To have you guys somehow come up with this EMLI program at this level to connect with partners and share information with mayors who are doing critical work, particularly those that have the percentage that they do of Black Americans is, there's just no words to explain how important this is. And NAREB is so proud to be in partnership with the Mayor's Association to be able to do this work. It's very important to have folks who really understand and then take the action to figure out the steps to help support doing what we say we need to do. We know the data is there. So I want to commend both of you ladies on this work that you are doing and the African American Association. So I wanted to start with that because we are here to support. We appreciate the work that you guys are doing. We see the value of what you're doing, and we hope that what we bring to the table will be very helpful. And we too are here to support to the best of our ability. Congratulations on expanding your program. And we pretty much have we have a local connect for every single city that you guys are in. So I'm really excited. I was excited to see the city. Let me then say, I know that the program is to be very supportive to the mayors. So mayors, congratulations on, showing up and wanting to be engaged and wanting to learn. We are here definitely to support. So for NAREB, I'll talk a little bit about the programs that we do have, which we hope that you will reach out to our local leadership in order to engage. They are there to support. This is some of the work that we're already doing. So overall, NAREB is a trade association formed in 1947. Our creed is democracy and housing. So everything that we do is about fair housing and make sure that everyone has, particularly African Americans, the right to own a home should they be able to sustain that home. So a lot of the work that we do is around that work. One of the programs that we are very, very excited about that we have already partnered in the city of Houston with Mayor Turner, and we partnered in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, and we've had an event in Charlotte, North Carolina, and last we rolled our 100 city tour into Mount Vernon, New York. Those 100 city tours and the Building Black Wealth tour has components, pretty much all of what you guys have in your home ownership list. So we talk about the ABCs of home ownership. We talk for sellers, we talk about I have equity, now what? We want to make sure that owners, in particular our seniors, understand things like reverse mortgage and what is available to them to make sure it fits with what their need is and that they're not taken advantage of, but that they're making informed decisions. We have a relationship with the Black mayors. We know, we call it that session, what to do with Big Mama House. We know that heirs properties is huge in our community where lots of people are losing their properties. So the partnership with the Black mayors, they are on site and they take time to do one-on-one sessions. You can sign up when you register to meet with an attorney to talk about a home that you may have. And I'll give a quick example. In Houston, a gentleman showed up with just a huge deck of papers. He wasn't sure if any of the documents were a deed. The attorneys helped him. They identified the deed. He was the owner. It was his grandmother's home. Was about to go into foreclosure. The value was at $650,000, and we were able to help him save that property. That's the kind of work together that we are able to do in helping your constituencies as well in the markets, the local markets where you are. We also have housing counseling. We have HUD certified counselors that are there available to assist you to do a soft pull, review credit, and then give next steps to that consumer on what needs to be done. We also have lenders there so that you can talk to more than one so that you are informed of what homeowner lending products are out there. Also down payment assistance opportunities, everything that we can bring to help layer, to help you walk through the process to home ownership and educate your constituents along the way. So the 100 City Tour, we are in partnership with the Mayors Association. So we go to those mayor cities and host. We're extremely excited about New Orleans this year. It's going to be on the forefront of our convention in New Orleans. It's July 27th. And I think we're also partnering with the Urban League. So now we have faith-based, we have civic, we have the mayors, we have the Urban League. And so our list is just growing. We're projecting for over 15,000 consumers to attend. And we will bring our wealth. We're calling it the Building Black Wealth Pavilion. We're going to sit inside of the Urban League's Community Day. So anyone who's interested in learning about home ownership, any financial literacy information they need, credit, information for sellers, information for our seniors. And of course, we will have the youth there as well. We'll have information for our youth, student loan debt, and things of that nature. So that's one of the programs that I believe we are in partnership with ALMA. We're looking forward to connecting to more of you. If we are not having a major national event, we certainly can connect you with our local leadership. And together you guys can create an event very similar to our 100 City Tour in your market. And we look forward to doing that. I also know that appraisals, Black appraisals is a big issue as well. We have what we are calling, working on with the GSEs, a program. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the Appraisal Institute, and they're working on increasing Black appraisals. So we're working on a program there. NAREB has an affiliate called the National Society of Appraisals. We call them NESRA. And they do certifications for appraisals. It's really tough to become an appraisal. You have to get, I think they call it a kind of like a mentor in a way, put in so many hours. The mentor doesn't get compensated. It's a high risk because you're responsible for the work that they do. So we're not able to really attract. So there's a lot of work and policy work and adjustments to those requirements to help get those into the appraisal area. So we can increase that number. Our appraisers' average age is late 50s, but they come with quite a bit of education. So NESRA hosts a session at our national conference. We typically invite the community to come in and learn about what it takes to become appraisal, what an appraisal does, and kind of the concern that we have about getting more young people into the appraisal industry. And so wherever our national organization is, we have a session where we bring in the community to educate them. We're looking to step that program up a little bit more aggressive in order to set a goal that we can reach to increase Black appraisers. We need folks who understand our communities, who live in the communities, who are familiar with the value of our communities so that they are not undervalued. So we're really, that's another program that we are strongly looking to expand. We have an appraisal strategy currently, but we want to enhance that strategy. One of the other programs that we are extremely proud about is our Black Developers Academy. We will be graduating 50 cohorts at the National Convention in August. And I'll give a quick example of the impact of that particular program. So we identified, we put out the application. We had 389 Black developers at different levels. Some were, we didn't open it up to beginners, but you either had to own land or you built something or you've rehabbed, but you have some knowledge, you've worked with the city, you have some knowledge on development in your community. We had 389 realtors apply for that program, but we only had 50 slots. We identified the 50. With that came 2 consultants, one to really help them in deal structure to make sure that it was a viable project. We could get a return on investment. And the other one was for legal consultation. That program has absolutely been amazing. I ran into one of the gentlemen was in Colorado. They had a 200 affordable housing project that they had been working on and was having a really hard time getting it off the ground. Being a part of the developers program, he learned with his one-on-one counseling and other information. Enterprise is our curriculum instructor. And just from the experience and knowledge that they have been able to get funding for the program. And now pretty soon we will have 200 new affordable housing in Colorado on the ground. And so as we pull together all the work that these 50 Realtus members who have been, developing by their bootstraps, we're trying to find a way to help them scale so that we can put more affordable housing. We have an amazing relationship with the faith-based community. A lot of them own land, don't really know development. So we're trying to connect those dots as well. So we're putting our members with the members in the Developers Academy, connecting them with Kojic is our primary faith-based partner in order to do more development. So we're really excited as to what that's going to look like. We won't solve all of the affordable housing issues, but I think we will be able to bring more projects to communities that are affordable. So we're extremely excited. We're graduating the first and we're opening up to the second. And I'm pushing to maybe double that. People are looking at me a little cross-eyed, but it would be great to bring 100. You guys have added 2. I'm trying to add many more, but we're very excited about that program as well. The appraisal program, we're looking to connect that because when you build a home, you need an appraiser. And if we have folks that understand the community, we think that we could have greater impact in that area as well. So that is our next phase next year, how we can complement those two. One of the other things that we do that I'm really excited about is from a homeowner's perspective, we have something called Women Investing in Real Estate, but we also do a report. And the report identifies one of the things that we've identified that's come out of the report that Black women are buying homes at a higher percentage, but they're coming out the back doing foreclosure just as quick. We've identified that they've been being put into higher price loans. So that's we've identified as a key need for education, that they know what products are out there, what sustainable products are available for them and their family, particularly if they are single mothers. And there's quite a few single mothers that are taking the lead in home ownership. So in that program, we have a strong educational component for the women. That's running into, we will have our first inaugural women's conference on the front end of the National Convention in New Orleans. So we are very excited. We're preparing for over 1,000 women. And we have an agenda we're laying out to make sure we can cover all the key topics of what they need to know in order to attain homeownership, sustainable homeownership, and from there to be able to build wealth for their families and themselves. So very excited about that. The other report we do is our State of Housing in Black America. And State of Housing in Black America is kind of the foundation that drives most of our programming. The data is extremely important. So as each year we roll out our State of Housing in Black America, we identify the recommendations, which then we support. We develop programming where the data set tells us this is where a need is. And we call that our Black Wealth Summit. That's every November, and we typically host it at a Black HBCU, a Black college. And so the Sheba report is very key to a lot of the decisions we make as to what we do and the programming that we develop. And then, of course, being a trade association, we have 2 major conferences a year, one in February and one in July. And we've had various mayors participate on panels and then learn more about what we are doing as well. And so we always want to have an open door for you guys doing our conferences, because we show up at you guys' conferences and just try to take over. So we certainly want to extend that opportunity back to you guys to be engaged and be involved. But our conferences is primarily, an education opportunity for our members. We have a lot of training and breakout sessions. Most of you have probably heard about the NAR settlement. So there's a lot of uneasiness that's going on in the market right now. So we're trying to make sure that we're bringing as much information and resources to help our members be able to maintain and stay in the industry. So lots of education, lots of training. We try to identify things that we can do with our partners and engage them and involve them. And as I said before, the EMLI mayors have been a part of some of those general sessions that we have had. to share what's going on in the city, what some of the needs are, particularly in the housing and community develop arena. And that has been very helpful for our members to hear directly and to see the mayors participate in our conferences as well. So those are pretty much in alignment. Earlier that we talked about, I'm trying to see if I've gone over my time because I think that there's a Q&A. I think that I have covered the key programs that we are working on that really provide, there's a lot more, but these are the key ones that provide, I think, an opportunity for the focus of the EMLI program. And we are very excited about the work that you guys are doing, and certainly looking forward to connecting in local markets and being able to educate your constituents and make a difference for the people in your community and strengthen your community. And I'll take questions if there are any questions, or if is there anything else specific that you wanted me to speak to.
I have a question for you. Can you, first of all, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that information. Can you shed some light, a little bit more light on that Black Wealth Summit that happens? And maybe, I don't know, have you guys decided where it will be this year?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And I think Bishop has already been in touch with the mayor because we will close out the Black Wealth Summit after we talk about we release the report. And the other thing we do, we have a play called Build It, Keep It, Pass It On. And so our members pretend and dress up like they're back in college. And we find a couple of, we've written a script. And so you'll get a kid that maybe came from like maybe the projects, and you'll get a kid that's come from, decent means, and they're having a conversation, and the student gets a call from an uncle and say, oh, we're going to buy a property that you can live in and you can rent to your, fellows, classmates. And the other kid is like, oh my God, my credit is messed up. I wish I had someone in my family. No one has owned a home in my family. And the other kid will say, well, I'll help you, and you can get started with a Credit Smart app. Because Freddie Mac is one of our partners, and they have Credit Smart. And so we incorporate our resources into the script. And then afterwards, we have a panel, like an open discussion. These kids don't like panels. So, it's about getting the bag, something about getting the bag. You got to have the right terminology as well when you're talking to these young people. And we have an open dialogue, and we drive from what they've heard to get their insights and input on what they think about homeownership. What do they think about how how student loan debt is impacting, and how they don't want to take on more debt, and they don't want to be responsible for the roof, and they don't want to be responsible for cutting the yard. And so we are able to hear back from them on how they feel. We're able to hear back from them and get the information, which also helps our partners be able to build better resources and products and information and things of that nature. And so we host that play, which really is a lot of fun. And then we, on the Saturday, we will close out with a community day. So the mayor, we're in partnership with the mayor in Atlanta already, and we will have our full community day, and our the Deltas, Phyllis will be a part as well. Kojic, as I said, is our main faith-based partner, but we do have the other, Full Gospel and some of the other faith-based. We have the Divine Nine, and we have our mayors, and we have some of our other folks, and we have our members, and we're able to make great impact. We have the one-on-ones, and we try to think through everything that a consumer would need in the way of educating themselves and preparing themselves to be ready for home ownership, sustainable home ownership, and building it, keeping it, and passing it on in their family.
Very good. I see we have someone with their hand up. Please go ahead.
Mayor Ingram.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned that there are a number of opportunities, or the opportunities for mayors to be involved at your various conferences. What do those opportunities look like, and how do you go about that?
Absolutely. So in Charlotte, the mayor in Charlotte participated with the national president in a fireside chat and talked about, I think the other person on that panel was Wells Fargo executive, talking about housing, what some of the challenges are. And that mayor talked a lot about some of the work that she had done in her city, focus on, community development, homeownership, and just some of the challenges in some of the communities, which was very informative for our members And so when we start to plan to get our calendar, and now that you guys have these, I think it's 12 or so, I wrote them all down. And it doesn't have to be necessarily with national, but as Stacy said, you can reach out to our leadership, and I can certainly help in that. If there's something that you want to plan or you want to do, we can certainly figure out their fireside chats. There are keynotes that they look for in opening sessions. At a mayor's level, those are some of the things that we can build around some of the educational sessions as well, so that the community also hears directly from you.
I
Mayor
see.
Rainey?
Yeah, Mayor Rainey from Riceville.
Yes, well, good morning on this side, good afternoon where you all may be. The question that I had is, well, one, I want to say thank you for being here. And I actually serve on our local board for the Arkansas Association of Realtors as the vice president. So it's interesting to now be on this side of working as a mayor. But the question I had is, given the interest or the rise in interest rates, what are some of the best practices that we as mayors can do to kind of stand in the gap between the lending institutions, the realtors, and within just the whole ecosystem to help our residents build that wealth? Because now interest rates are kind of hindering the progress that you can have on, buying a property and then seeing a return sooner.
You would have like the best question there is to have, wouldn't you? Even, inventory is one of the other really, really big challenges, which is why the Developers Academy is something that we're trying to do. Interest rates is a really tough one. I think our counselors help quite a bit in that area. They've kind of seen the market go up and down over the years as to what a buyer can do. But interest rates is a really hard one, because if your income is what your income is, that interest rate is certainly going to hike your payments and the cost of what you're going to pay for the house over a 30-year period of time if you stay that long. I think it's just more trying to educate them. And I'll just quickly say, because I think I'm talking over my time, but just very quickly, my dad bought properties in Los Angeles 65 years ago. And the thing that he used to always say to me, and he never sold, so those properties are still in my family, if you can even imagine the value of equity that is built over 65 years. He just happened to pick a great market, which is Los Angeles. It doesn't happen in every single market. Real estate is local. But he used to always say to me, he did the same thing with cars. He's like, if you, on the front end, it's timing. Real estate is timing, location and timing. On the front end, if you're educating yourself, because the interest rates are going to come down, but they're also going to go back up, and you buy at the right time and you hold at the right time, you can be successful in real estate. And I watched him do that. He didn't buy beyond his means. Sometimes it was a little bit too less than his means, but he held those properties. And so today I can look back over 60 years and say, he never invested at a rate that he could have, because he could have lost his job. Not to say that he would have never lost the properties, but in the way that he invested, and he was blessed to be able to keep a job. Him and my mom, they were able to weather some of the tougher times. And there were times he wanted to buy, but it wasn't the best time to buy. So I think in those moments in between, the best thing that we can do for people is educate them on how to be a sustainable buyer or investor, to make sure that they are not experiencing losing a home, because that can be very detrimental. But there's really not a lot we can do except, on the advocacy side of what we do, and talk to the responsible people and try to help educate them on the importance of affordability, for our community. So I think it's having those conversations and helping people to understand. Of course, you still have to manage, the entire financial ecosystem of the world as well. But to the extent that you can have conversations with the right people from an advocacy perspective, because we also will host a State Housing in Black America event at the Congressional Black Caucus. And the purpose of that is to just make sure that our congressional members are well informed about housing as they are making decisions. And just because a lot of people are in their ear, depends on who's talking to you. So for us, we want to be at the table to talk about what's important for our communities and what the needs are, and understanding, people start to talk about risk. Well, I have to do this because I have to manage my risk. And we understand risk, but let's have a conversation together, those of us that are knowledgeable, and see what is possible. What can we do together? So my response to you would be, we have to talk to the people who have their hands on the interest rates pulse and see if we can understand the risk that they're trying to manage. And is there a way that there's something we can do together that makes a difference for the people that we're serving, to give them an opportunity, if they want home ownership and can sustain home ownership for their families, that we're able to help them make that happen. So I know that isn't the exact answer that you needed, but that's the best answer that I can give you under the circumstances.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Executive Director Wilson. We appreciate your presentation and look forward to having your NAREB team back for office hours to dig a little deeper with our individual cities and to answer questions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You guys keep doing the good work. We appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation from our friends at HUD. We actually have two presenters. We've got David Berenbaum. He is a Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Housing Counseling. He's going to help us understand some of the programs for first-time homebuyers. We also have Melody Taylor. She too is a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy, Legislative Initiatives, and Outreach, as well as the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity and Executive Director of PAVE. She's going to discuss some of the housing initiatives and efforts by the Biden-Harris administration to address appraisal bias. And last but certainly not least, we've got Patrick Byrne joining us. He is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Intergovernmental Relations, and he's attending virtually and will be able to follow up with you should you have more questions today. We will let both speakers present and then use the remaining time for Q&A. Please remember to use your chat feature to ask questions throughout the session, and please welcome our distinguished guest from HUD to EMLI.
Thank you, Stacy. I guess I'll jump in, Melody, if that's okay. Stacy, if it's all right. Your Honor, it is a joy to be here with you today for the EMLI meeting to discuss HUD's programs for first-time home buyers, how we can support you, your constituents, and discuss all of our new initiatives. It is also a blessing to follow our colleague and partner, Executive Director Renee Wilson, who I commend for all of her and NAREB's and their affiliate housing counseling group, NID Housing's, great works in the community. Access to homeownership is a crucial component to building wealth in the United States. Yet many in our communities face barriers, particularly people of color, young individuals, and those with low incomes. In the current challenging marketplace, many prospective homeowners feel locked out, and we are working with you, our partners, and the entire community to overcome that. HUD, Office of Housing, which the Office of Housing Counseling is part of, has made significant strides to enhance access to homeownership and to help Americans recover from the financial challenges from the pandemic. The Office of Housing Counseling program itself helps families to obtain, sustain, and retain their homes. HUD accomplishes this important mission through a strong network of over 1,500 national, regional, state, and local HUD participating housing counseling agencies, and they're close to 4,500 HUD certified housing counselors. Initiatives include supporting housing counseling, reducing barriers for individuals with student loan debt, recognizing positive rental history for the FHA insured mortgage program, and decreasing mortgage insurance premiums on FHA loans, as well as implementing industry-leading loss mitigation programs during the pandemic and afterwards to help FHA mortgagors in cities across the country sustain their housing. FHA has also proposed the use of small dollar mortgages to reach more households in urban core communities. These policy changes have enabled millions, including 2.5 million first-time homebuyers, to achieve homeownership during the Biden administration. However, there is still, we acknowledge, much more work to be done. 85% of FHA consumers are first-time homebuyers. And now, appropriately during National Homeownership Month, we're doubling down on our commitment to expand homeownership opportunities for all individuals. Some of our new initiatives include the expansion of our nationwide Make Home the Goal national awareness campaign, focusing in on first-generation homeowners nationwide in 42 metropolitan areas. We're focused in particular on Black, Latino, and Asian American Pan-Pacific Islander communities, and we're using data from the NAREB study as well as other major studies from Munos, US, and others to really make sure we're reaching the next generation of homeowners. In addition to that, we're working as well to augment services to the unhoused, to new Americans, and to ensure services that celebrate both language access and cultural appropriateness and sensitivity. I'd also like to note our partnership with Renee Willison and NAREB. We've been actively participating with Melody Taylor and FHEO at all of the wonderful programs across the country on the Building Black Wealth Tour. But we also have partnership with countless other organizations, from NeighborWorks to NACA, who are all doing good works in each of your community. Next Friday, we'll announce our new Homeownership Initiative grants, which will not only realize just 8,000 new homeowners in 16 states, but for the first time document the impact of pre- and post-purchase housing counseling through research and a white paper that will be issued by HUD's Office of Policy Development and Research. We expect this year that our counseling initiatives across the country will reach 1.3 million households. And you can go to the HUD Exchange and actually take a look at the consumers we're reaching in each of the numbers of your communities and the type of counseling they are receiving. More importantly, as we work to support first-generation home buyers, in the coming months, we're providing consumer services so that they can take advantage of special purpose mortgage programs, down payment assistance programs, CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, community lending programs, and we're educating millions of consumers to the steps they need to take, not only to realize homeownership, but to pursue their fair housing rights, and really expanding their access to countless programs, from rental assistance to down payment assistance, and now moving individuals who are in the Section 8 program to homeownership through the Choice Voucher program. Our goal is simple and straightforward: to ensure that every American can live in the affordable housing of their choice in a community that is free from discrimination. I look forward to our conversation and answering any questions, and let me turn things over to my colleague, Melody Taylor.
Thank you, David. In kind, I have to say I'm excited about the opportunity to share information with you on the Property Appraisal Valuation and Equity Task Force. I have to say, you all serve a very critical role in being able to connect to the community, and there have been some already that is doing critical work here. I'd be remiss if I didn't lift up Mayor Parker in Philadelphia, who has absolutely all hands on deck found ways and opportunities to be creative and to engage stakeholders around this issue of appraisal bias. They were pretty much lockstep with the department and the Biden-Harris administration at the onset and the establishment of this task force. So just want to give a big shout out to her and the folks in Philadelphia for doing the work. I'm probably a little biased because I was the regional director in Philadelphia for 11 years. So just that community has been strong in pushing forward the issues of discrimination around housing and a variety of complex issues. So with that being said, good morning and good afternoon. Again, Melody Taylor. I serve many roles, but one of them is the executive director of this task force. And as many of you know, the president appointed then Secretary Marcia Fudge and Ambassador Susan Rice to co-chair this task force. It's now succeeded by Acting Secretary Todman and Director Neera Tandon with the White House Domestic Policy Council. And on June 1st of 2021, the president announced the creation of PAVE, which is a first of its kind interagency task force, purpose to root out bias in home appraisal process. PAVE and this task force celebrated its third anniversary on March 23rd. The president did something very bold, and he asked us to evaluate the causes, extent, and consequences of appraisal bias, and to establish a transformative set of recommendations that would root out appraisal bias valuations. As you may know, it has a history, right, from the 30s and beyond. You know, property has been valued by many, and when you equate property to people and valuation, as it relates to the African American community, we continue to be at the bottom of the totem pole here. And so I can't express enough that this is a critical issue to get educated about and to involve yourselves with, to educate your constituents, as well as we embark upon rooting out bias and transforming the appraisal industry. You know, decades after the Fair Housing Act, obviously bias in home valuations, it's continued to limit the ability of Black and Brown families to enjoy the financial returns associated with homeownership, thereby contributing to the sprawling racial wealth gap. We believe that the efforts of PAVE has really catalyzed a very strong conversation and opportunity to transform this industry. We are in partnership and have worked with over 13 federal agencies that were a participant in this interagency task force. And when I tell you it was no easy feat, to get 13 agencies to harmoniously align around a civil rights issue is something that has not happened before and was very unprecedented during this administration. I'm proud to say that the president gave us a charge to deliver a report in 180 days, and we did just that, a very substantive report. Not only did it show up as a documented effort to educate people, but we chose to make it an action plan. So we charged ourselves and we commissioned ourselves with being able to transform this industry by way of administrative actions that did not require congressional blessing in order to bring about this change. And so these 13 federal agencies, we issued a report, which you can find at pave.hud.gov. It's on our website. It also amplifies about 41 action items that we are continuing to work through very robustly. And I just want to scope out some of the work that we've done and to talk about some of the areas of focus that we created. Beyond those federal agencies, I would just like to say we held active listening sessions with realtors and appraisers, philanthropy, the academic world, civil rights. I mean, we brought in every touch point and stakeholder that we could gain access to contribute to the framework of this action plan, but to also to think about how we get to solutions. And just to amplify some of the trends, I can't say enough that data is your friend. It's a terminology that many use, but it is your friend. And so in 2022, when we released this report, it was a lot of resistance, right? The appraisal industry and others believed that this was not an issue, right? That these were anecdotal accounts where we had people who were seeking an appraisal or fair appraisal, and they literally, to get to that point, they had to whitewash their homes. I don't know if the terminology is familiar, but literally having to take down the pictures in your home, take out your hair care products out of your house in order to get a fair appraisal. It's not something that we should have to do in this century, but it's something that folks have had to do in order to get a fair appraisal. So our partners at Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, strong partner and Federal Housing Finance Agency, all produced data using the uniform appraisal data sets that supported all the theories and the hypotheticals that we knew were happening in the appraisal industry, is that Brown and Black communities were being devalued. And to flank those reports, Dr. Andre Perry, if you haven't heard of him, you should seek him out. He has a book titled Valuing Black Lives and Housing, and it documents that $156 billion loss in our communities is suffered as a result of the devaluation of not just homes, but the devaluation of people, quite frankly, because if you have to whitewash your house and have someone else show up to be you, then we're not just devaluing property, we're devaluing people. And so some of the data and the numbers show that homes in white neighborhoods appraise at roughly double the value of homes in communities of color. That purchase appraisals in Latino and African American neighborhoods were found to be 19% and 23% below the contract price. Again, equates to loss of wealth, and the loss of wealth that can be passed to generations. When Renee talked about her father purchasing homes 65 years ago, and he's been able to hold on to that land, that's wealth that's being passed to family members. But just imagine those who were unable to purchase, or who did purchase, right? And their properties were never valued, thereby not being able to transfer wealth to your children, to your grandchildren, or to be able to leverage that equity in your home, to be able to produce some of the opportunities, the economic opportunities that I'm pretty sure that this group and others are trying to facilitate in the communities in which you serve. So ultimately, the devaluation of property in neighborhoods of color has a compounding effect, right? When you think about it, just think about the individual who has lost wealth, but then the loss of wealth actually impacts the community at large, right? Because if my home is devalued and I live in a community, everyone who is around and near me, because you look at comparable properties, right? And the comparable value of homes, the value is then lost to the community, thereby contributing to the lack of investment that can be leveraged to build up the economic growth of a community. So just trends and statistics, you can find some of this in the report. Again, use it to leverage the education of your constituent base. I will also say, as I talk about the data, again, under the Director Thompson's leadership, Federal Housing Finance Agency has been a strong partner and has produced data that can be localized. So you don't have to look at the national picture here. You're able to go into this database and be able to localize the data so you could see the trends that are happening in your particular communities as you're going out to do your education. Quickly, because I know I'm running out of time, I'd like to just share a couple of areas that we focused on, right? So we knew that this was a big industry that has lived a long life without diversity, without things. And so we had to narrow in on what were some of the key issues that we wanted to affect as we were thinking about these action items. And so there were several areas. So we wanted to make the appraisal industry more accountable. The Appraisal Foundation and others who create governance structures and strategies around the appraisal industry has been loosely regulated and has not had the degree of governance needed in order to bring about transformation. And so we sought to do that. Empowering communities and consumers. Not many know about how appraisals are formed, but what contributes to an appraisal, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we were empowering consumers. So our partnership with NAREB and with our Office of Housing Counseling has given us huge returns in being able to get people empowered around this issue, but also if they receive an unfair or an inaccurate appraisal, then what's the process and how to resolve that? Ensuring that bias isn't baked into technology. We hit the pandemic, right? And everything that could be viral went viral, right? And so no longer were appraisals being done on the ground, but we went to a desktop appraisal. And so how did that affect the industry? And as many of you know, bad data in, you get bad data out. And so trying to govern that technology, the world of technology around not being biased, because it does exist there. And then cultivating an appraisal profession that is diverse. Again, as Ms. Wilson talked about, it's not a diverse industry, and how you access it it's a degree of difficulty. So just some numbers for your context. When we started this effort, we found that 97% of the profession had a profile of older, white, male-dominated industry, few women, and even fewer people of color were able to have access to the industry. And so over the course of time, we have worked with organizations and the appraisal subcommittee to create opportunities for funding to innovate in this space. And then I've already talked to you about leveraging federal data to inform policy trends and research, and we did that in partnership with our folks at FHFA. So just quickly, results of that. The appraisal standards were updated to include an ethical obligation to clarify fair housing laws and the applicability. We have done anti-bias training, and we've provided to well over 1,500 housing counselors, state licensing agencies, appraisers, and others this anti-bias and fair housing training. The appraisal subcommittee, which is a governing organization over your states, your state regulatory frameworks. They now have on the street a notice of funding availability that will allow states to apply for grants to increase opportunities to innovate and enhance diverse appraisal programs. I heard the mayor of Mississippi of Jackson and was on this call, and Jackson, Mississippi was successful at leveraging these dollars and creating successfully graduating a cohort of diverse appraisers. In Mississippi, there were counties where there were no appraisers. They had 0 appraisers on the books. And so again, something that we are acutely aware of and trying to really push forward innovation. Like to say, Department of Labor recently signed an apprenticeship agreement with an organization called 10,000 Black Appraisers. The director is Thaddeus Dawson, who has been just on the ground and dogged about showing up in spaces and places and making sure that he's making information available, but trying to create some ease around that mentorship program that can get one into the appraisal industry. So I'd like to just share his name and lift up that organization. And then lastly, I will say unprecedented was the notion that we publicly released this aggregated data that I talked to you about that can be localized. The second wave of that data was released last year during Homeownership Month, and again has brought around really significant returns to our constituents, advocacy organizations, academics who are taking a deeper dive and a look into this work. And I will lastly say, which was a huge opportunity for HUD, is most recently we introduced into a mortgagee letter reconsideration of value processes, which your government-sponsored enterprises have aligned with us on that. And again, it allows for persons who receive an FHA loan a process for reconsideration of value. Not sure if you know or not, but reconsideration of value processes have not existed before PAVE. It has been very ad hoc, and your lenders and institutions have been able to institute their own processes and policies around it. So for the first time, a reconsideration of value process has been introduced, and we're hoping that our partners with the federal banking agencies will align with FHA to roll out reconsideration of value policies for your depositories and non-depositories around the country. With that, I know I'm running out of time, and I know we have questions. Again, I'll just like to say deep, rich information and tools and resources on our pave.hud.gov website that you can use a la carte it and share it out with your constituents. So thank you for the opportunity to share and inform.
Thank you so very much. We do have a few minutes for questions. I see we've had a couple of things in the chat. And Patrick is on board because we had Mayor Rainey ask for a report, and Patrick put it in the chat. And we also have where Mayor Rainey also shared the NAREB report on the state of housing in Black America. So please take a look at the chat, and we'll open it up for any more questions. And we'll also have those reports available in our LinkedIn group if you have any difficulty pulling it down. But we do have a few minutes for some questions if anyone has them.
Stacy, if I may, Mayor Rainey asked a question, a very important question during the first segment of our discussion about high interest rates and mortgage products. And if it's all right, I'd like just to build and follow up a little bit on the mayor's question. I quickly reference new special purpose mortgage products that are being made available. Those products, in essence, incorporate down payment assistance, and also, because housing counseling is being provided, also offer an incentivized interest rate for first-time home buyers in target communities. And they are focusing on communities that have been disinvested or redlined over the years. So they're a wonderful tool that many banks are beginning to originate. And then I'll also add that the organization NACA has a mortgage product under the Community Reinvestment Act, which also mitigates the import and use of credit to really look at the efforts of a consumer to maintain their payments across the board. Another 100% product that's fantastic out there. So there are a lot of innovative products coming on the market, and housing counselors can connect consumers to those products. And I'm sorry, I see that Mayor Ingram is trying to make a comment and I interrupted him. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, no apologies at all. I just was raising my hand to patiently wait because I'm also taking notes of the resources that you were sharing. So thank you so much. This has been very informative, and the appraisal bias is definitely a critical equity issue. And so the work that the administration and you all are doing around that is deeply needed. I still have developers that I meet with talking about like the cost of construction and how that's impacting affordability. And I know some time ago, former Secretary Fudge was on one of these AMA sessions with us and talking about work that HUD was doing around trying to help address just like the cost of construction. And so are there any updates in that? Do we see any trend downward? Are costs going to level out? Because I know that also plays into affordability.
Mayor Ingram, I'm happy to jump in here. Patrick Byrne with HUD. Our Office of Community Planning and Development, there's several grant programs that go to communities across the country that help with building a capital stack, whether that's our Home Investment Partnership Program, or using other resources in that office. I'm happy to connect you after this call to kind of have a discussion. But related to homeownership itself, our CDBG funds can be used in creative ways to build programs in localities across the country related to home buying and homeownership activities. So that's another resource in a different office that we didn't bring to this call, but just wanted to make folks aware of it. But happy to continue the construction related conversation after this.
That will be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, we certainly appreciate the presentations that we got from our HUD team. And as I mentioned before, we will be having office hours. And so hopefully we can connect with them again. And of course, we have Patrick's email to reach out to him at any time to connect the dots on some of these amazing programs. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. You'll be able to see links to the programs discussed today in the EMLI LinkedIn group, with special thanks to NAREB, to HUD, and to you, mayors, for joining us for today's session. Our next session will be June 27th and feature our final home ownership session. Be sure to follow us on social media at Our Mayors and visit us online at ourmayors.org. Thank you for joining us today, and this concludes our session.